What if one ordinary night changed your life forever? For Lucas Rivera, a struggling waiter at an upscale restaurant, that night began with frustration, sarcasm, and a mysterious diner in faded jeans. Little did he know, the man he was serving, dismissively at first, was none other than Elon Musk. And what started as a clash of worlds would turn into the opportunity of a lifetime. This is the story of how brutal honesty, a little courage, and an unexpected encounter transformed Lucas's life forever. The warm glow of the city lights seeped through the rain-soaked streets of San Francisco, casting a soft golden hue over the bustling metropolis. Tucked away in a quieter part of the city was La Jolla, a restaurant known for its elegant decor, impeccable service, and clientele who preferred their privacy served with a side of haute cuisine. Inside, the cream-colored walls shimmered faintly under the dim light of crystal chandeliers, while the gentle murmur of polite conversation intertwined with the soft notes of a piano drifting from the corner. For Lucas Rivera, however, the allure of the restaurant had long lost its charm. At 34, he had spent nearly half his life working in upscale establishments like La Jolla, but tonight was particularly draining. His mind churned with worry, his shift shadowed by the dark cloud of his personal struggles. His mother's health had taken a turn for the worse, her treatments piling up insurmountable bills. On top of that, his younger sister Maria, a promising college student, depended on him to cover her tuition. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders. Behind the service station, Lucas leaned against the polished mahogany counter, his sharp, tailored uniform doing little to conceal the exhaustion etched into his features. His fingers fiddled absently with a folded napkin as he overheard the lively chatter of affluent diners enjoying their evening, people whose casual indulgences cost more than his monthly rent. He sighed deeply, rubbing the back of his neck. Another night of serving people who don't know the meaning of struggle, he thought bitterly. Just as Lucas reached for a tray of crystal glasses, the heavy wooden door of the restaurant swung open. A gust of wind and rain accompanied the arrival of a man dressed in a simple, slightly worn black sweater and faded jeans. His disheveled hair and tired expression didn't match the polished, high-society patrons Lucas had grown accustomed to serving. The hostess, a blonde woman with a sharp sense of decorum, barely glanced at the man. Her practiced smile faltered for a moment before she recovered, tilting her head slightly. "Table for one?" she asked, her tone polite but lacking warmth. The man nodded, brushing the raindrops from his sweater. "Yes, please. Somewhere quiet, if possible." Lucas watched the interaction from across the room, his eyes narrowing. There was something peculiar about the way the man carried himself, not nervous or insecure, but as though he didn't care what anyone thought. That was unusual in a place like La Jolla, where image and appearances were everything. The hostess led the man to a small corner table near the back of the restaurant. He walked with a deliberate slowness, his shoulders slightly hunched as though the weight of the world rested upon them. Lucas frowned as he observed the man's choice of attire and demeanor. "Looks like someone wandered in here by mistake," he muttered under his breath. "Who's got table 8?" asked Sarah, one of Lucas's colleagues, as she passed by with a tray of wine glasses. Lucas straightened and picked up his notepad. "That'd be me," he replied flatly. "Well, good luck," Sarah teased, throwing him a wink. "Hope he doesn't just order tap water and breadsticks." Lucas forced a smile, though his mind simmered with annoyance. With a resigned breath, he walked toward the table, his polished shoes tapping softly against the hardwood floor. The man was already scanning the menu, his expression unreadable. As Lucas approached, he practiced his professional smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Good evening," he began, his voice smooth but devoid of enthusiasm. "I'm Lucas, and I'll be your server tonight. Can I start you off with something to drink?" The man glanced up, his blue-gray eyes locking with Lucas's. They were tired yet sharp, as though they'd seen and processed far more than anyone else in the room. For a moment Lucas faltered, but he quickly recovered. "A whiskey," the man said simply, his voice low and steady. "Neat. Whatever you have." Lucas raised an eyebrow, his inner monologue already crafting a judgment. Whiskey wasn't exactly the drink of choice in a fine dining establishment like La Jolla. Still, he nodded curtly. "Very well, sir. I'll be back shortly." As he walked toward the bar to prepare the drink, Lucas couldn't help but mutter under his breath. "Whiskey neat. Bet he doesn't even know how much it's going to cost him." Back at the bar, Sarah leaned in as Lucas prepared the drink. "So what's the story with Table 8? She asked with a mischievous grin. Lucas smirked. "Just another out-of-place tech guy trying to play sophisticated." As he neared the table, the man, still engrossed in his phone, glanced up briefly. His eyes, sharp but weary, took in Lucas with a quick, practiced scan. He offered a faint nod as if signaling he was ready for something more substantial. Lucas placed the drink on the table with measured care. "Here's your whiskey, sir," he said evenly, maintaining his professional demeanor. "Have you decided on what you'd like to start with, or should I give you a few more minutes?" The man set his phone down, tilting his head slightly as he regarded Lucas. For the first time, Lucas noticed something about the man's expression, calm, but with an intensity that made him seem far older than his appearance suggested. "What would you recommend?" the man asked, his voice steady but carrying an undertone of exhaustion. Lucas suppressed the urge to roll his eyes. This was a question he had answered 1,000 times, though he doubted this man was interested in an honest suggestion. He forced a polite smile. "Everything on our menu is excellent, sir," he said, his voice tinged with subtle sarcasm. "But if you're looking for something approachable, I'd suggest the soup of the day." The man raised an eyebrow, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Approachable?" he repeated, his tone carrying a trace of amusement. "That's one way to describe it." Lucas felt a flicker of annoyance. Something about the way the man responded made him feel as though the joke was on him. He leaned slightly forward. "Of course, if you're feeling adventurous, the foie gras is a house favorite, though," Lucas added with a slight smirk. "It's an acquired taste." The man nodded, his faint smile lingering. "Foie gras it is then," he said simply, as though dismissing the unspoken challenge. Lucas straightened, slightly taken aback. "Very well," he said. "And for your entree?" The man glanced at the menu again, then closed it without hesitation. "Filet mignon, medium rare." Lucas blinked. The man's confidence in ordering the most premium items on the menu conflicted with his casual appearance. Still, Lucas couldn't resist one last remark. "You know, the filet pairs best with one of our Bordeaux wines. But if you prefer something lighter, we have more affordable options." The man met Lucas's gaze without flinching. "Bring me the Chateau Lafite Rothschild 2010. Lucas's hand froze mid-note. He looked up, his professional mask slipping just slightly. The Chateau Lafite Rothschild wasn't just wine, it was a statement. At $2,500 a bottle, it was one of the most expensive wines on the menu, reserved for the wealthiest of clients. Lucas searched the man's face for some sign of doubt, but his expression remained calm, assured. "Are you sure, sir?" Lucas asked, unable to keep a slight edge of incredulity from his voice. The man nodded. "I'm sure." Lucas turned and walked back toward the kitchen, his mind racing. Who is this guy, he wondered. Dressed like that and ordering Lafite Rothschild? Either he's a fool or he knows something I don't. Back at the bar, Sarah was waiting with a tray of martinis. She glanced at Lucas's expression and smirked. "What's the story with Table 8 now?" she asked. Lucas set the order ticket down, still trying to process the interaction. Foie gras, filet mignon, and a $2,500 bottle of wine. Sarah's eyes widened. "No way. That guy? Dressed like he just came from a thrift store? Did he look nervous when you gave him the price?" Lucas shook his head. "Not at all. He's either clueless or incredibly arrogant. Either way, it's going to be interesting when the bill comes." The two exchanged a laugh, but Lucas couldn't shake the strange feeling growing in the back of his mind. Something about the man didn't add up. Back at Table 8, Elon Musk leaned back in his chair, watching the subtle dynamics of the room with a quiet amusement. The sideways glances from staff, the murmured jokes exchanged behind the bar. It was all painfully familiar. For once, though, Elon wasn't irritated by the treatment. If anything, it was refreshing. After months of navigating the sycophantic world of boardrooms and conferences, there was something strangely satisfying about being underestimated. As Lucas returned with the wine, Elon observed the waiter closely. The man carried himself with the precision of someone who had spent years perfecting the art of service, but his eyes betrayed a hint of frustration, perhaps even anger. Elon wondered what burdens this man carried. He had seen that look before, too many times to count. Lucas placed the wine on the table with a practiced flourish. "Your Chateau Lafite Rothschild, sir," he said, his tone polite but slightly clipped. Elon picked up the glass, swirling the dark liquid before taking a slow, thoughtful sip. "It's excellent," he said, his voice calm. "Thank you." Lucas nodded, though he couldn't help but feel a twinge of suspicion. "Enjoy your meal, sir," he said, retreating once again to the bar. As the evening unfolded, the tension between Lucas and his unassuming guest quietly simmered. Neither man knew it yet, but this seemingly ordinary encounter was about to change both of their lives forever. The evening at La Jolla carried on with its usual elegance, the hum of conversation rising and falling like the notes of a symphony. Waiters moved gracefully between tables, balancing trays of artfully plated dishes and delicate glasses of wine. But the tension at table 8 was palpable, at least to Lucas Rivera. From the moment Elon Musk had ordered the extravagant Chateau Lafite Rothschild, Lucas couldn't shake his unease. The man's casual attire and quiet demeanor didn't match the extravagant choices he made, and Lucas's instincts told him something was off. As he approached Elon's table with the foie gras starter, Lucas caught snippets of conversations from other patrons. A couple celebrating their anniversary clinked glasses, whispering sweet words to each other. A group of suited executives at another table animatedly discussed the latest tech funding trends. The contrast between Elon's unassuming appearance and the polished crowd around him only fueled Lucas's suspicions. Lucas placed the foie gras on Elon's table with practiced precision, his voice steady but tinged with subtle sarcasm. "Here you are, sir, our house special foie gras. Enjoy." Elon looked up, offering a faint smile. "Thank you," he replied simply, his tone calm and unaffected. He took a small bite, chewing thoughtfully before nodding to himself. "It's excellent." Lucas stood for a moment longer than necessary, waiting for some reaction. Perhaps confusion over the dish's rich complexity or a sign of discomfort. But Elon's calm composure remained unshaken. "Will there be anything else?" Lucas asked, his tone polite but slightly clipped. Elon shook his head. "Not for now, thank you." As Lucas turned to leave, he overheard the group of executives at the nearby table. One of them, a young man in a perfectly tailored suit, was leaning toward his colleague, gesturing discreetly in Elon's direction. "Is that—" the executive whispered. His companion frowned, squinting at Elon. "No way. He wouldn't be here alone dressed like that. Besides, wouldn't there be security or something?" Lucas stiffened as the conversation faded behind him. What were they talking about? He shook his head, brushing off the unease. It didn't matter. He had a job to do. Back at the bar, Lucas joined Sarah, who was preparing a tray of cocktails. She looked up, smirking. "How's our mystery guest doing?" Lucas exhaled sharply. "Still calm, still pretending he belongs here. It's almost impressive." Sarah laughed, but her gaze wandered toward table 8. "You know, there's something familiar about him." Lucas rolled his eyes. "Yeah, he looks like every tech bro who thinks he's the next Steve Jobs." Sarah didn't respond, her brow furrowing as she studied Elon. "I don't know. He seems different." Lucas waved off her comment and grabbed a new order ticket. Different or not, he's still out of place here. As the night progressed, Elon's quiet demeanor began to draw more attention. Patrons at nearby tables occasionally glanced his way, their curiosity piqued by the strange juxtaposition of his unassuming appearance and high-end choices. Lucas returned with the filet mignon, his movements brisk and efficient. He placed the plate in front of Elon, noticing how the man took a moment to admire the presentation. "Filet mignon medium rare," Lucas announced. "I assume everything is to your liking so far?" Elon nodded. "It looks perfect. Thank you." As Lucas turned to leave, Elon's voice stopped him. "Actually, could I get some ketchup?" The request stopped Lucas in his tracks. He blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. "Ketchup?" he repeated, his tone betraying his disbelief. Elon nodded again, completely unfazed. "Yes, please." Lucas couldn't hide his reaction this time. His brows furrowed and he let out a short laugh. "I'm not sure ketchup pairs well with a filet mignon," he said, his voice heavy with condescension. "But I'll see what I can do." Back in the kitchen, Lucas vented his frustration to his colleagues. Can you believe Table 8 just asked for ketchup with a $120 steak? Sarah, who had followed him into the kitchen, burst into laughter. Are you serious? What kind of person does that? Even Chef August, the head chef known for his fiery temper, raised an eyebrow when he overheard. Ketchup? He repeated, his French accent thick with disdain. On my filet mignon? Sacrilege. Lucas returned to Elon's table with a small dish of ketchup, setting it down with a little more force than necessary. Here you are, sir. Enjoy. Elon, unfazed by Lucas's obvious disdain, simply nodded and offered a quiet, thank you. Elon's sharp eyes caught the whispers and glances directed his way. He swirled the Chateau Lafite Rothschild in his glass, the deep red liquid catching the light. The wine was exquisite, but tonight it wasn't the highlight of his evening. Instead, he found himself intrigued by Lucas's barely concealed disdain. Elon had spent years surrounded by people who either idolized him or feared him, waiters who fell over themselves to serve him, executives who rehearsed every word before speaking in his presence, journalists desperate for a soundbite. Tonight was different. Lucas didn't know, or didn't care, who he was. And for the first time in months, Elon felt something he hadn't expected. Amusement. He flagged Lucas down with a small gesture, watching as the waiter approached with an air of reluctant duty. Yes, sir? Lucas asked, his tone betraying the limits of his patience. I'd like to hear your recommendation for dessert, Elon said, his lips curving into a faint smile. Something sophisticated. Lucas raised an eyebrow, barely concealing his annoyance. Sophisticated, you say? Well, our chocolate soufflé is quite popular, but it requires a 20-minute preparation time. Perhaps you'd prefer something simpler, like the panna cotta. Elon tilted his head slightly, his smile widening. The soufflé sounds perfect. I don't mind waiting. Lucas scribbled the order on his notepad, biting back a retort. Very well, sir. The soufflé it is. In the kitchen, Chef August was preparing the dessert when Lucas entered to retrieve another order. The chef's sharp eyes caught Lucas's tense expression, and he smirked knowingly. Let me guess, August said, his accent thick. Table 8? Lucas groaned. He ordered the soufflé. I swear he's doing this just to mess with me. The chef chuckled. Perhaps he knows exactly what he's doing, and perhaps you should stop letting him get under your skin. Lucas grabbed the prepared plates and left the kitchen, but August's words lingered in his mind. As the minutes ticked by, the restaurant's atmosphere continued to shift. More patrons began to leave, but the few who remained kept glancing toward Table 8. The executives at a nearby table, clearly tech insiders, whispered furiously among themselves. One of them discreetly pulled out a phone, pretending to scroll while sneaking a photo of Elon. Lucas delivered the soufflé with the precision of a seasoned waiter, though his forced smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Here you are, sir. Our signature chocolate soufflé. I trust it will meet your sophisticated standards. Elon looked up, his eyes sparkling with barely concealed amusement. I'm sure it will. As Lucas turned to leave, Elon's voice stopped him once more. Before you go, I have a question. Lucas froze, his jaw tightening. Yes, sir? What makes this soufflé so sophisticated? Elon asked, his tone genuinely curious. The question caught Lucas off guard. He glanced at the dessert, searching for an answer. Well, it's all about the preparation. The ingredients have to be measured precisely, the timing has to be perfect, and the presentation... Interesting, Elon interrupted, his tone thoughtful. So it's not just about the taste, it's the process. Lucas blinked, unsure how to respond. I suppose you could say that. Elon nodded, cutting into the soufflé with his fork. Thank you, Lucas. You've been enlightening. For a moment, Lucas stood there, unsure whether he had just been complimented or mocked. He walked back to the bar, his thoughts racing. There was something unsettling about the way Elon spoke, as though he saw through every layer of Lucas's carefully constructed demeanor. At the bar, Sarah was waiting, her arms crossed. Okay, spill. What did he say this time? Lucas shook his head. Nothing. And everything. I don't know. It's like he's playing a game and I'm the only one who doesn't know the rules. Sarah smirked. Maybe he's just enjoying the show. You do have a flair for dramatics. Lucas didn't respond. Instead, he glanced back at table 8, where Elon was finishing his dessert with unhurried precision. For the first time that evening, Lucas felt a flicker of doubt. Who is this guy? Elon finished the last bite of soufflé, dabbing his mouth with a napkin before reaching for his phone. He opened the camera app, discreetly positioning it to capture the moment. He wasn't filming out of malice but curiosity. This evening, with its simmering tension and unfiltered honesty, was unlike anything he'd experienced in years. At the bar, Sarah and a few other staff members huddled together, whispering in hushed tones. "I swear it's him," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It can't be," one of the busboys chimed in, shaking his head. "Why would someone like him come here alone, dressed like that?" Sarah rolled her eyes. "Have you seen the way he carries himself? The way he doesn't care about anyone's opinion? That's the kind of confidence only someone like Elon Musk has." Lucas approached the group, his irritation bubbling over. "What are you all whispering about?" Sarah turned to him, her eyes wide with a mix of excitement and fear. "Lucas, I think table 8 is Elon Musk." Lucas let out a sharp laugh. "Elon Musk? That guy? Dressed like he just came from a garage sale?" "I'm serious," Sarah insisted, glancing nervously at table 8. "The executives at table 6 recognized him. One of them showed me a photo on their phone. It's him." Lucas shook his head, dismissing the notion. "No way. If that were true, we'd know. Someone like Elon Musk doesn't just walk into a restaurant without a security detail or fanfare." But as he turned to glance at Elon, Lucas felt the first crack in his certainty. The man's calm composure, his expensive wine choice, and his complete indifference to the judgment around him. It all suddenly seemed to align with Sarah's theory. A cold knot of dread began to form in Lucas's stomach. Back at table 8, Elon quietly sipped the last of his wine, his gaze drifting across the room. He noticed the growing attention from the other diners, the way their conversations quieted whenever he moved. He had seen it all before, a room slowly piecing together his identity. But tonight, he wasn't annoyed by it. If anything, he found it entertaining. Lucas returned to the table, determined to confirm or disprove Sarah's suspicions. He placed the check on the table with his usual precision, though his hands felt heavier than usual. "Your check, sir," Lucas said, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside him. Elon glanced at the bill, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek black card. Lucas immediately recognized it as a Centurion card, its weight and design unmistakable. His heart sank further as he picked it up, his fingers trembling slightly. "I'll be right back with this," Lucas said, forcing a smile. At the register, Lucas swiped the card, half expecting it to be declined. But the transaction went through without a hitch. He stared at the receipt for a moment, the reality of the situation sinking in. If this man really was Elon Musk, then every sarcastic comment, every dismissive remark, and every condescending glance Lucas had given him that evening was about to blow up in his face. Sarah approached, her expression a mix of excitement and terror. "Well?" Lucas handed her the receipt silently, his face pale. Sarah glanced at it, her eyes widening as she took in the signature at the bottom. Elon Musk. Lucas returned to the table, the receipt in one hand and the man's black card in the other. His mind raced, replaying every interaction they had that night, the subtle digs, the obvious disdain. He had treated this man, one of the most powerful figures in the world, like an ordinary diner who didn't belong. As he placed the receipt on the table, Lucas cleared his throat. "Here you are, sir. Thank you for dining with us." Elon looked up, his expression unreadable. "Thank you, Lucas. It's been an enlightening evening." Lucas felt the weight of those words, his stomach twisting into knots. He wanted to apologize, to explain himself, but the words wouldn't come. Elon stood, slipping his phone into his pocket. He glanced around the restaurant, his calm gaze sweeping over the remaining diners and staff. Then he turned back to Lucas. "You know," Elon said, his voice low but steady, "it's rare to meet someone who's this honest. Refreshingly so." Lucas blinked, unsure how to respond. I didn't mean to." Elon raised a hand, cutting him off. "Don't apologize. Tonight, I've learned more about what people really think than I have in months of meetings. That's worth more to me than any perfectly polished service." As Elon walked toward the exit, the entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. The group of executives at table 6 stared in stunned silence, while the remaining diners whispered furiously among themselves. Lucas stood frozen, watching the man leave, his thoughts a chaotic mix of fear, regret, and disbelief. Sarah appeared at his side, her voice barely above a whisper. "What just happened?" Lucas shook his head, his voice hollow. "I think I just insulted Elon Musk all night, and he thanked me for it." In the moments that followed, the weight of the evening crashed down on Lucas. Every sarcastic comment, every judgmental glance, they all replayed in his mind like a cruel highlight reel. But alongside the regret came a strange sense of wonder. Elon Musk, one of the most influential men in the world, had walked into his life and left it forever changed. And somehow, Lucas knew that this was only the beginning. In the kitchen, Chef August emerged, wiping his hands on a pristine white towel. He had been listening to the commotion from afar and had gathered enough to realize what had transpired. "So," he said, his voice calm but tinged with curiosity, "you mean to tell me that the man you were serving tonight was Elon Musk?" Lucas nodded slowly, unable to meet the chef's eyes. August chuckled, shaking his head in disbelief. "And here I thought the ketchup request was the most scandalous thing of the evening." The comment drew a weak laugh from Sarah, but Lucas couldn't even muster a smile. He felt as though the walls of the restaurant were closing in on him. The group of tech executives at table 6 had not yet left. They sat frozen, their phones buzzing with notifications as news of Elon Musk's low-profile outing spread through their networks. One of them, a young man in thick-rimmed glasses, finally broke the silence. "Do you think he recorded the whole thing?" he whispered to his colleagues. His companion shrugged. "If he did, it's going to be the most talked-about dinner service in Silicon Valley." Lucas retreated to the back of the restaurant, seeking solace in the quiet of the storage room. He leaned against the cool metal shelves, his head in his hands. The full weight of the evening pressed down on him. Not only had he insulted one of the most powerful men in the world, but Elon had also thanked him for it. That was the part Lucas couldn't wrap his head around. His phone buzzed in his pocket, jolting him from his thoughts. He pulled it out to find a series of frantic messages from his sister, Maria. "Lucas, are you okay? Did you really serve Elon Musk tonight? It's all over social media. Call me." Lucas groaned, shoving the phone back into his pocket. Of course, the story was already out. It was only a matter of time before the headlines started rolling in. "Waiter insults Elon Musk at upscale restaurant," or "Elon Musk's quiet dinner turns into unlikely showdown." Back in the dining room, Sarah approached Lucas cautiously. She handed him a glass of water, her expression softening. "Hey," she said gently. "You okay?" Lucas took the glass but didn't drink. "No," he admitted. "I messed up, Sarah. Big time. He probably thinks I'm the biggest idiot on the planet." Sarah tilted her head, studying him. "I don't know, Lucas. He didn't seem angry. If anything, he looked amused." Lucas sighed, rubbing his temples. "Yeah, but why? Why didn't he blow up at me? Why didn't he say anything?" Sarah smirked faintly. "Maybe he liked your honesty. Or maybe he's planning to tweet about it and let the world decide." The thought made Lucas's stomach twist. Great. Just what I need. My face plastered all over Twitter as the waiter who disrespected Elon Musk. As the restaurant began to wind down for the night, the staff gathered near the bar, exchanging theories about what would happen next. "Do you think he'll come back?" one of the busboys asked. Sarah shrugged. "Who knows? With someone like him, anything's possible." Lucas remained silent, his thoughts swirling. He couldn't shake the memory of Elon's parting words. "It's rare to meet someone this honest, refreshingly so." What had Elon meant by that? Was it genuine praise or was it a veiled warning? Lucas didn't know, and the uncertainty gnawed at him. As the clock struck midnight, Lucas stepped outside to catch his breath. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and glistening under the glow of streetlights. He leaned against the side of the building, staring out into the empty street. His phone buzzed again, and this time he answered. Maria's voice came through, frantic and full of curiosity. "Lucas, why didn't you call me back? Is it true? Did you really serve Elon Musk?" Lucas sighed. "Yeah, it's true. Maria gasped. What was he like? Did he say anything? Was he nice? Lucas hesitated. He was calm. Polite. Honestly, I don't know what to make of it. Maria's voice softened. Lucas, you didn't say anything stupid, did you? Lucas let out a dry laugh. Oh, Maria, if only you knew. As Lucas hung up, a strange mix of emotions washed over him. Regret, fear, but also a flicker of something else. Hope. Elon Musk had left without anger or resentment. He had even seemed entertained by the evening's events. Perhaps, just perhaps, this wasn't the end of the story. Lucas turned and headed back into the restaurant, his mind made up. No matter what happened next, he would face it head on. After all, Elon Musk had called him refreshingly honest. Maybe that honesty would turn out to be his saving grace. The sun rose reluctantly over San Francisco the next morning, its warm light cutting through the lingering mist that clung to the city's streets. Inside his modest apartment, Lucas Rivera sat hunched over a steaming mug of coffee, his mind replaying the events of the previous night. Every sarcastic remark he had made, every condescending glance he'd shot at Elon Musk, it all came rushing back like a bad dream. But this wasn't a dream, and the reality of what might happen next gnawed at him. His phone buzzed insistently on the kitchen table, vibrating across the surface like a persistent reminder of his mistakes. Lucas hesitated before picking it up. It was a message from Sarah. Sarah, have you seen the news? Call me now. Lucas groaned, running a hand through his hair. He wasn't ready to face whatever fallout awaited him, but curiosity got the better of him. He opened a browser on his phone, and sure enough, headlines about last night were already making waves. Waiter's honesty takes center stage during Elon Musk's dinner. Elon Musk dines low-key at San Francisco's La Jolla. Unfiltered encounter with staff goes viral. Lucas's heart sank as he scrolled through the articles. Some painted the interaction as a refreshing glimpse of humanity, while others criticized him for his attitude. Worse still, clips of Elon's calm responses and Lucas's cutting remarks had surfaced online. The videos weren't overly flattering, but they weren't damning either. If anything, the public seemed fascinated by how ordinary the encounter had been. Before Lucas could process the full weight of the situation, his phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Sarah. It was an unknown number. Hello? Lucas answered hesitantly. Good morning. Is this Lucas Rivera? A calm, professional voice asked. Lucas's stomach flipped. Yes, this is Lucas. Mr. Musk would like to meet with you today. Are you available at 1 p.m.? The words hit Lucas like a freight train. He nearly dropped the phone. Elon Musk wants to meet me? Why? The caller didn't skip a beat. He'll explain when you meet. Can I confirm your availability? Lucas hesitated, every instinct screaming at him to decline, but deep down, he knew he couldn't run from this. Yeah, I'll be there. The caller gave him the address to a sleek downtown office building before hanging up. Lucas stared at his phone, his coffee forgotten. What did I just agree to? At precisely 12:45 p.m., Lucas arrived at the address. The building was everything he expected, modern, imposing, and impeccably clean. He stood in the lobby, feeling impossibly small among the suits and polished shoes passing by. His nerves felt like they were tied in knots. A receptionist greeted him with a professional smile. Mr. Rivera, Mr. Musk is expecting you. Right this way. Lucas followed her to an elevator, then up to the top floor. The ride was silent, save for the faint hum of the machinery. When the doors opened, Lucas found himself in a minimalist yet elegant office, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Elon Musk stood near the windows, gazing out over the city. He turned as Lucas entered, his expression calm but faintly amused. Lucas, he said, extending a hand. Good to see you. Lucas hesitated for a moment before shaking Elon's hand. Mr. Musk, I'm not sure why I'm here, but I want to apologize for... Elon held up a hand, cutting him off. No need to apologize. In fact, you're here because of last night. Have a seat. Lucas sat down, his heart pounding. Look, I know I was rude, and unprofessional, and... honest, Elon interjected, sitting across from him. You were honest, brutally so, and that's exactly why you're here. Lucas blinked, confused. I don't understand. Elon leaned back in his chair, studying Lucas carefully. Do you know how rare it is for someone to tell me the truth? Most people either idolize me or fear me. But you didn't care who I was. You treated me like any other customer, albeit not in the best way. Lucas flushed, his embarrassment mounting. I didn't mean any harm, I guess I was frustrated and tired and… Elon nodded. Exactly. Frustrated and tired. Like most people in the real world. That's the kind of perspective I don't get from the people around me. Lucas frowned. What do you mean? I mean, Elon said, leaning forward, that I'm surrounded by people who tell me what they think I want to hear. But last night you gave me something different, unfiltered feedback. And I think you could help me bridge the gap between my world and yours. Lucas stared at him, completely at a loss. I'm just a waiter, he said finally. What could I possibly offer you? Elon smiled faintly. Perspective. You've spent years serving people like me. You've seen the disconnect between those who build technology and those who live with its consequences. That's valuable, Lucas. Over the next hour, Elon outlined his vision. He wanted Lucas to join his team, not as a traditional employee, but as someone who could provide honest, unvarnished feedback on the projects and decisions that shape the future. I want you to tell me what no one else will, Elon said, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Lucas listened, his disbelief slowly giving way to cautious optimism. The offer was unlike anything he had ever imagined, and the thought of leaving his struggling day-to-day life behind was both exhilarating and terrifying. Finally, Elon leaned back in his chair, his tone softening. I know this is a lot to take in, and I don't expect an answer right away. But think about it. If nothing else, last night proved you're not afraid to speak your mind, and that's exactly what I need. Lucas swallowed hard, his mind racing. Thank you, Mr. Musk. I'll think about it. Elon nodded, standing to shake Lucas's hand once more. Good. And Lucas? He added, his eyes twinkling with amusement. Next time, don't be afraid to recommend the souffle without sarcasm. Lucas laughed nervously, shaking his head. I'll remember that. As he left the building, Lucas felt a strange mix of emotions, relief, excitement, and the faintest glimmer of hope. The life he had known was on the verge of changing forever. For the first time in years, he dared to believe that his honesty, flawed as it was, might lead him somewhere extraordinary. And somewhere high above the city, Elon Musk sat back in his chair, already envisioning the impact this unlikely partnership might have. The following days felt like a surreal blur for Lucas Rivera. The memory of Elon Musk's offer lingered in his mind, occupying every waking thought. He found himself replaying their conversation over and over, searching for hidden meaning in Elon's calm, measured words. Lucas spent hours pacing his small apartment, the reality of the situation sinking in. The offer was almost too good to believe, an opportunity to work alongside one of the most innovative minds of the century. But doubt gnawed at him. What could I possibly bring to someone like Elon Musk? He muttered to himself. I'm just a waiter. His phone buzzed on the counter, interrupting his thoughts. It was his sister, Maria. Lucas, did you decide yet? Maria's voice was breathless with excitement. I can't believe Elon Musk offered you a job. That's insane. Lucas sighed, leaning against the counter. I don't know, Maria. What if I mess it up? I'm not exactly qualified for this kind of thing. Are you kidding me? Maria shot back. Lucas, you've been working hard your whole life. You've dealt with difficult people, juggled a million responsibilities, and kept our family afloat. If anyone can handle this, it's you. Her words gave Lucas a glimmer of confidence. Maybe she was right. Maybe this was his chance to finally break free of the relentless grind and provide a better life for his family. The next morning, Lucas received another call from Elon's assistant. Good morning, Mr. Rivera, she said warmly. I'm calling to confirm your decision about Mr. Musk's offer. Lucas hesitated, his heart pounding. Finally, he took a deep breath. I'll take it. Wonderful, the assistant replied. Mr. Musk will be thrilled. We'll email you the details for your onboarding. Your first day will be Monday at 9 a.m. Lucas hung up, the enormity of what he had just agreed to sinking in. His chest tightened with a mix of nerves and excitement. This is really happening, he whispered to himself. The weekend passed in a whirlwind of preparation. Lucas ironed his best shirts, polished his shoes, and even splurged on a new blazer. By the time Monday morning arrived, he felt as ready as he could be. At exactly 8:45 a.m., Lucas walked into the towering office building where he would now work. The receptionist greeted him with a smile and directed him to the top floor. As he rode the elevator, Lucas couldn't help but notice his reflection in the mirrored walls. He looked sharp, but his face betrayed his nerves. When the elevator doors opened, Lucas was greeted by the sight of Elon Musk himself, standing casually near the entrance to the conference room. Elon waved him over, his expression warm. "Lucas, right on time. That's a good start." Lucas smiled nervously. "Good morning, Mr. Musk." "Call me Elon," he said with a grin. "Come on, let's get started." Elon led Lucas into a sleek, minimalist conference room where a small group of employees were gathered. They all turned to look at Lucas, their expressions curious but welcoming. "Everyone, this is Lucas Rivera," Elon said, gesturing to him. "He's going to be working with me on something very important, keeping me grounded." The group chuckled, but Elon's tone was sincere. "Lucas is here to give me honest feedback on everything," Elon continued. "From how we communicate with the public to how our innovations impact everyday people. He's seen the other side of the coin, and I think that perspective is invaluable." Lucas shifted uncomfortably under their gazes. I'm not sure I have much to offer compared to all of you," he admitted. One of the employees, a woman in her early 30s with a kind smile, spoke up. "Sometimes the most valuable insights come from fresh eyes. Welcome to the team, Lucas." Over the next few hours, Lucas was introduced to the inner workings of Elon's world. He attended meetings, reviewed projects, and even sat in on a brainstorming session for Tesla's next ad campaign. At first, Lucas felt like a fish out of water, but Elon's calm encouragement helped him find his footing. During a break, Elon approached Lucas with a cup of coffee. "So," Elon said, handing him the cup, "what do you think so far?" Lucas hesitated, unsure how honest he should be. Finally, he decided to take the same approach that had gotten him here in the first place. "Honestly," Lucas said, "it's overwhelming. Everyone here is so brilliant. I feel like I don't belong." Elon nodded, his expression thoughtful. "That's exactly why you belong, Lucas. You see things the rest of us miss. That's your strength." Lucas smiled, the weight of his insecurities lifting slightly. By the end of the day, Lucas felt a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. As he packed up to leave, Elon stopped him near the elevator. "One last thing," Elon said. "Remember why I brought you here. Don't hold back. Be honest, even when it's uncomfortable. That's how we grow." Lucas nodded, a new sense of determination settling over him. "I will. Thank you, Elon." As Lucas stepped out into the cool evening air, he couldn't help but smile. For the first time in years, he felt like his life was moving in a direction he could be proud of. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but Lucas was ready to face it head-on, with honesty, grit, and a little bit of faith. This was the start of something extraordinary. The transition from the bustling chaos of restaurant service to the sleek corridors of a corporate office was nothing short of surreal for Lucas Rivera. Only a week ago, he was balancing trays and dodging sharp-tongued chefs. Now he found himself in Tesla's innovation hub, seated at a conference table with some of the brightest minds in the world. On his second day, Lucas arrived early, wanting to avoid the intimidating rush of suited employees who poured in just before 9 a.m. He sat at his new desk, a minimalist workspace with clean lines and a view of the city skyline, and began reviewing a stack of briefing documents the team had provided. The words were dense with technical jargon and market strategies, but Lucas pressed on, determined to keep up. As he flipped through the pages, he couldn't help but notice the quiet murmurs of his colleagues. Though everyone had welcomed him warmly, there was no mistaking the curiosity in their eyes. Lucas was the outsider, the wild card handpicked by Elon Musk for reasons no one fully understood. And while they were too professional to ask outright, the unspoken question hung in the air. What is he doing here? At 10 a.m., Elon strode into the room, his energy palpable. Dressed in his signature casual style, jeans and a black t-shirt, he exuded the confidence of someone who was used to commanding attention. "Good morning, everyone," Elon said, his voice cutting through the room's quiet buzz. He glanced at Lucas and gave a slight nod. Let's dive in. The team spent the next hour discussing a new marketing campaign for Tesla's affordable electric vehicles. As slides were projected onto the screen, Lucas listened intently, absorbing as much as he could. The ideas were bold and polished, but something about them felt off. When the room grew quiet, Elon turned to Lucas. Lucas, what's your take on this? All eyes turned to him, and Lucas's palms grew damp. He hesitated, his mind racing. Should he play it safe and offer a vague compliment, or should he do what Elon had asked of him? Be honest? Lucas took a deep breath. Well, I think it's impressive, he began, carefully choosing his words. But it feels like it's aimed at people who are already sold on Tesla. What about the folks who think electric cars are out of their reach? This campaign doesn't speak to them. The room fell silent. A few people exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Lucas's heart pounded in his chest. Had he overstepped? Elon leaned back in his chair, his face unreadable for a moment. Then he broke into a grin. Exactly, he said, pointing at Lucas. That's the kind of perspective we're missing. Keep going. Encouraged by Elon's response, Lucas continued, I mean, the whole point of making these cars more affordable is to bring more people into the fold, right? Maybe the campaign should focus more on that, on how Tesla is breaking barriers, not just for the elite, but for everyone. The team nodded thoughtfully, and the head of marketing jotted down notes. Lucas couldn't believe it. His input was actually being taken seriously. Over the next few weeks, Lucas found himself growing more comfortable in his new role. Elon kept him close during meetings, often turning to him for his unfiltered thoughts. While Lucas didn't always have the answers, his candid observations sparked conversations that pushed the team to think differently. One afternoon, Elon called Lucas into his office, a sleek space filled with prototypes, sketches, and models of Tesla's latest innovations. Elon gestured for Lucas to sit and handed him a printed email. This just came in, Elon said. Take a look. Lucas read the email, his eyes widening. It was from a customer who had seen Tesla's new campaign, one heavily influenced by Lucas's suggestions. The customer shared how the ad had resonated with her, making her feel like Tesla was no longer just a brand for the wealthy but something within her reach. Wow, Lucas said, setting the paper down. That's incredible. Elon smiled. It is. And it's because you were honest enough to tell us what we didn't want to hear. Despite his growing confidence, Lucas still faced moments of doubt. At times, he felt like he was walking a tightrope, balancing his honesty with the need to fit into this new world. But every time he faltered, Elon's encouragement reminded him why he was there. One such moment came during a high-stakes presentation about a new Tesla product line. As the team unveiled their plans, Lucas noticed a glaring oversight, something he knew would affect the everyday consumer. When Elon turned to him for feedback, Lucas hesitated. The room was full of executives, engineers, and marketing professionals who had poured countless hours into this project. Criticizing their work felt risky. But Lucas remembered Elon's words, "Don't hold back, be honest, even when it's uncomfortable." Taking a deep breath, Lucas spoke up. "I think this is an amazing concept," he said, choosing his words carefully. "But I'm worried about the price point. It's innovative. But how many people will actually be able to afford it?" The room went quiet, but instead of bristling, the team began discussing ways to address the issue. By the end of the meeting, Lucas's feedback had shaped the direction of the project. Outside of work, Lucas's life began to transform as well. His new salary allowed him to pay off his mother's medical bills and support his sister's education without the constant stress of making ends meet. For the first time in years, Lucas felt like he could breathe. He made a point of visiting his old colleagues at La Jolla, where the story of his meteoric rise had become a local legend. Sarah greeted him with a mock bow. "Mr. Rivera, the tech mogul himself, gracing us with your presence?" Lucas laughed, shaking his head. "I'm still the same guy, Sarah, just with a different uniform." As they reminisced, Lucas shared stories from his new job, careful not to divulge too much. Despite his success, he remained grounded, never forgetting the journey that had brought him here. One evening, as Lucas prepared to leave the Tesla office, Elon stopped him by the elevator. You've been doing great, Lucas, Elon said. But remember, this is just the beginning. Your voice matters, and we're only scratching the surface of what we can achieve. Lucas smiled, his heart swelling with pride. Thanks, Elon. I'll keep that in mind. As the elevator doors closed, Lucas felt a profound sense of purpose. For years, he had been just a waiter, serving others and living day to day. Now, he was part of something bigger, something that could change lives just as his own had been changed. The morning sun bathed the Tesla headquarters in golden light as Lucas Rivera walked through its glass doors. In his office, Lucas sifted through reports, his desk now adorned with a photo of his mother and sister. His mother, who had recently completed her treatments thanks to Lucas's financial support, smiled brightly in the frame. Next to her, his sister Maria held up her college acceptance letter, her future now secure. Lucas ran his fingers across the edge of the frame, a wave of gratitude washing over him. He had worked tirelessly to get here, but it wasn't just for himself. Everything he did was for his family, for the chance to give them the stability and opportunities they deserved. Later that afternoon, Lucas received an email from a member of the marketing team. The subject line read, "Impact Stats You Should See." Opening it, Lucas found a breakdown of feedback from Tesla's recent campaigns he had helped shape. The data showed increased engagement from demographics that Tesla had struggled to reach in the past. Attached was a handwritten note from the marketing director. "Your insights made this possible. Keep doing what you're doing." Lucas leaned back in his chair, a smile spreading across his face. It was a small victory, but it reaffirmed his belief that his voice mattered. That evening, Lucas joined Elon for a casual dinner at a nearby cafe, a stark contrast to the high-end restaurants Lucas had once worked in. Over burgers and fries, the two men discussed everything from upcoming projects to life's larger questions. "You've come a long way," Elon said, taking a sip of his drink. "How are you feeling about everything?" Lucas chuckled, shaking his head. "Honestly, some days I still feel like a waiter who stumbled into the wrong room, but I'm learning and I'm grateful for the chance to be here." Elon smiled. "You're not just here by chance, Lucas. You earned this. Your honesty, your perspective, that's what makes you valuable. Never lose that." Lucas nodded, his gaze distant as he thought about how far he had come. "Thanks, Elon. I won't." As the weeks turned into months, Lucas continued to grow into his role, his contributions becoming an integral part of Tesla's culture. His unfiltered honesty and grounded perspective inspired those around him, challenging them to think differently and approach problems from new angles. Word of Lucas's story spread beyond Tesla's walls. Media outlets ran features on him, dubbing him the waiter who changed Tesla. But despite the attention, Lucas remained humble, often deflecting praise back to his team and Elon's vision. One evening, Lucas found himself back at La Jolla, the restaurant where his journey had begun. The familiar cream-colored walls and dim lighting brought a wave of nostalgia. Sarah greeted him with her usual wit. "Back to where it all started, huh?" she teased. Lucas grinned. "Something like that. I owe this place a lot more than I realized." As he sat at a corner table, the same one Elon had occupied months ago, Lucas reflected on the twists and turns of his journey. From a frustrated waiter juggling family responsibilities to a key member of one of the world's most innovative companies, he had learned that life often unfolds in ways we can't predict. The next morning, Lucas stood before a room full of Tesla employees, delivering a presentation on the company's latest community outreach initiative. His voice was steady, his words confident, and his vision clear. When he finished, the room erupted in applause. Elon, who had been watching from the back, approached Lucas as the crowd began to disperse. "That was great," Elon said. "You're really starting to own this role." Lucas smiled, the weight of his past finally feeling lighter. "I had a good teacher." Elon clapped him on the shoulder. "And now you're teaching us. Keep it up." As Lucas walked out of the conference room, he felt a deep sense of purpose. His journey was far from over, but he was ready for whatever came next. The waiter who had once doubted his place in the world was now shaping its future, one honest conversation at a time. And in the quiet moments when he thought back to that rainy night at La Jolla, Lucas couldn't help but smile. Life had a way of surprising you when you least expected it. Life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. For Lucas, one night of honesty, flawed but genuine, opened a door he never imagined existed. His story reminds us that no matter where we come from or what we do, authenticity and courage can lead us to extraordinary opportunities. So, the next time you doubt your worth, remember, your unique perspective might just be what the world needs. If this story inspired you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join us for more tales of resilience, transformation, and the incredible power of the human spirit. See you in the next story.